That brings us to match number 5. Speaking of BoarControl, he's going to be facing off against Jarla in our 5th and final match here of the second day here at Grandmasters for the European region. And so looking at their decks side by side, very similar stuff they have brought to the table. And for me, it is always a treat to watch Jarla play a warrior deck because he is bar none one of the best at it. I think his Masters Tour performances have looked very lacking so far. He had an abysmal performance in Vegas. But I'm looking forward to seeing what he can bring to Grandmasters because I don't think Season 1 even necessarily lived up to the expectation that I have for a player like Jarla. And so Warrior, Hunter, Mage, and Priest are the 4 classes for each of them that's coming into this one. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the mirror match is going to pan out for this one. Are they going to be having standard bans across the board? Are we going to be looking at true mirror matches and some of the tech choices picking up big here? What's your take on this one?
Well, there are some discrepancies. The big one being that Jarla here is actually running a Bomb Warrior, which is a little bit surprising considering he's, well known as one of the best pure control players in the world, whereas BoarControl, the player who favors decks that get on board, make big tempo swings, push for damage, be aggressive. He's the one running the Control Warrior, so perhaps a reversal of fortunes on that front. But no matter the differences between the two decks, one thing remains the same, and that's that both were very interested in protecting that Warrior deck and making sure they could play it in the actual series.
Yeah, excuse us for the overlay. The overlay displayed incorrectly. It said that that Jarla had Paladin in the lineup. That was incorrect. So I'm looking for word to see if that is the correct protect and bans that took place in that one. And there you get to see him. So now that is the correct spot. So BoarControl has his Priest banned away from this matchup. His Reno Mage is still available in this one. And for Jarla, his Mage has been banned away, which means that everything looks good on his side. Bomb Warrior protected with Highlander, Hunter, and Priest left to go in that one. And so now I am really curious about this one. Every time I see the Control Warrior versus the Bomb Warrior split, I'm wondering what was the influence that caused Bomb Warrior versus Control Warrior in that regard?
I mean, it's a very good question. Perhaps like Bomb Warrior was considered to be more of an unexpected pick by the players. They felt like most people would predict that Control Warrior would be a deck that was being brought and sort of come up with strategies to prevent that, especially when you're coming into a world where a deck can be protected. So there's no way that you can just choose to outright ignore a deck in the metagame using a ban like you can in formats that we've had in the past. But also, it's just the ability to Bomb Warrior to just be Bomb Warrior. It's hard for Bomb Warrior to have a truly bad matchup because it's one of those decks that can just play solitaire sometimes. It can just curve out and do things, and you draw bombs, and they curve out, and they hit the 7-drop, and it's just a deck that ends the game. So I think there's a lot of merit to both sides, but I'm interested in actually seeing one go up against the other because I might be mistaken.
Hey!
I don't think we've seen this so far in the past 2 days, right? A Bomb Warrior go up against a Control Warrior. We've just had the mirror matches, Control Warrior versus Control Warrior or Bomb versus Bomb.
Well, I'm really excited about this one, and there's a couple things I want to touch on to start with. Number one, I love the way that Jarla's Bomb Warrior deck is built. He's got the Frightened Flunkies in there. He does not have our Megadillo. He does not have Tomb Warden. He says, I need a 2-drop in the deck, and Frightened Flunky's the best one I can play with, so I'm going to use that. To make room for those, because you do want a Spellbreaker in this deck, he has trimmed away one of the copies of Shield Block, and he has trimmed away a copy of Brawl. Brawl I don't think is as important in Bomb Warrior now because Conjurer's Calling Cyclone Mage is not the deck that you're facing off against the most anymore. It is almost exclusively Reno Mages.
Yeah, that's a good point.
In the meta in general. And so having that tool is important, but being able to have access to other tools is super important as well. So I think Jarla's Bomb Warrior deck looks super lean. I love what's going on here, and I hope that this is closer to the take that people are going to be landing on because I think it's fantastically built.
That's a fantastically built pool of selections for BoarControl.
Fill in the 5, take the Armadillo, or the big boy.
What now?
Remember the dynamic here, BoarControl, the one, I guess fittingly at least to his name, is playing Control, but actually Jarla is the player out of the two that is much more associated with playing the slower control-based decks. BoarControl a little bit probably out of his comfort zone here, playing an out-and-out control deck. Although, we really call this an out-and-out control deck, Admirable?
The term control refers to take advantage of the late game tempo. Take advantage of it, not be able to play, only in late game.
Yeah, there's no distinction between aggro, mid-range, and control. It's just early game tempo, mid-game tempo, late game tempo.
Honestly, that is what those three things mean to me.
Yeah.
Like, in my head, like a tempo rogue deck plays on the early tempo and takes advantage of your opponent not playing on the early game tempo, specifically those two things. Aggro to me just says, I'm going to throw all my stuff in there. I don't care what you're doing. I hope this works.
And then a combo deck just gets a whole lot of tempo in one really big burst at the end of the game.
Yeah, it pretty much ignores tempo except for one particular turn. Talking about BoarControl's deck list, some of the kickers that could be in place. Only one copy of Eternium Rover. I think in this particular matchup that can hurt. He has included a Plague of Wrath, which I think is one of the best cards for Warrior in this set. Super Collider and the Archivist Elysiana, whose purpose in this one will be auxiliary. It's meant to get rid of bombs that you have yet to draw on your deck.
Yeah, you say Plague of Wrath, one of the best cards for Warrior in the expansion. Is it useful in this matchup against a Bomb Warrior?
It can be. I would say overall that board wipes in general are pretty weak against Bomb Warrior because they're looking to have singular resilient threats that make impact. So Plague of Wrath in that instance, oftentimes it's a bad execute.
BoarControl just coining a Yeti.
A Mechie, as you were calling it.
Chill win Mechie.
Yeah. Interesting draw from Jarla in this spot as well. This has looked like a pretty straightforward turn with either Wrench Caliber or Restless Mummy, each one having different implications, but the Snip Snap draw means that he is afforded the liberty of being able to pick up a massive favorable trade over the Omega Devastator. The difference with that being is that there's a town card on board for BoarControl, so if it gets checked, your Snip Snap tokens get eaten up pretty much right away.
Yeah, crucially it would be 5-6 over 4-5 though. So yes, the Town Crier can deal with the tokens, but it can't change the breakpoint in terms of what this Snip Snap trades into. 2 health would be remaining on it after the trade. Still, it's setting off my spend your mana alarm bells, Admiral.
Yep, spend your mana.
Yeah.
No, I like the spend your mana. I think Restless Mummy is really underrated in that regard, where it is pretty much in its turn 4 state a pure form removal spell.
Yep.
Where you have a minion on board, your opponent didn't contest it. You remove the minion they played to contest it and connect with face.
Yep.
This is a very classic style of play from card games, is play a minion, it doesn't die, blow up your minions and keep attacking.
Yeah, so we saw executed pretty much perfectly from Tice in one of our earlier series. As soon as the board stuck and RDU was showing there was no answers, he just kept playing removal and just kept jamming those minions to face over and over again. Game ended.
Doesn't matter what deck you are.
Yep, he was playing a, quote, slow deck.
I think this gives you light into the window of how unimportant board wipes are. Where instead of securing the Restless Mummy going into a potential Dinomatic turn from Jarla, instead, use the Warpath, have a better tool for later on.
Right. It's not only Dinomatic turn, it's also Ziliak's turn.
This still might be a Ziliak's turn.
I can see it.
I think Jarla has some
But it's a worse Ziliak's turn, right?
It definitely is.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I take that back. Not necessarily. The Divine Shield versus no minions, I think, represents some trouble for Boar.
Unity, precision, perfect.
Yes. I appreciate that.
If he doesn't handle this right away, that's a double Snip Snap connection.
No tune can hold me.
But now he can use the Restless Mummy to just trade back into the Ziliax, which prevents that situation, whereas if he had Restless Mummy on board, the Ziliax comes down, and then you have no answer to the remainder of the Ziliax afterwards, which is what I'm referring to when I say it's a worse Ziliax turn.
Now I'm looking at Wrench Caliber, Frightened Flunky, start getting the bombs in deck for that potential Blastmaster boom. However, Jarla has shown great patience, I think, with Bomb Warrior before. And the knowledge that there's an Archivist Elysiana in BoarControl's deck, I'm curious if he feels like this is a setup for late game and try to massively shuffle all the bombs at once.
Yeah, so many cards in your hand right now just become kind of dead at that point, though, right? Like you have a Blastmaster boom and you have a Wrench Caliber that have just got to kind of sit there doing nothing to set up that game plan.
It's true.
That doesn't sit well with me.
I mean, that's what I was trying to set up with this turn, though, is that this is a major inflection point.
Yeah. It's also another reason why Frightened Flunky, is so strong, is that turn 6 is so often such a good turn for Wrench Caliber, because you swing Wrench Caliber on turn 6, you then swing it again on turn 7, and your Blastmaster Boom comes down. But if you play Wrench Caliber on turn 6, you're sat with two mana remaining, and before Frightened Flunky, there was really nothing you could do with that spare mana when you made this 1-2 setup play. Now you see perfect illustration of why just having a card that costs 2 in your deck is able to do something powerful for Jarla.
Minimizes the amount of time your opponent can draw the bombs as well to offset that, which means that you have the highest chance to land maximum boom bots from the Wrench Caliber.
Crucial here that Jarla can actually get the information that Armagadillo did nothing, because there is a small laser that shoots out the bottom of the Armagadillo when it activates. You can only tell if it buffed anything or if it buffed nothing. There's no way of seeing how many it was if the number was greater than 0, but you can tell the difference between 0 and not 0, which means in the long run that Jarla is actually more free to ignore this if he would like to, whereas seeing it buff a minion would be a little bit scarier to leave it there.
Yeah, my head is on just kind of going back to the Restless Mummy turn. Shield block, armor up, shield slam, connect.
Sure.
You would like to have a much bigger objective in play versus your opponent's turn 7, where they're looking like they want to play their own Dr. Boom. And so I think that's what he's setting up for. He says, you know what? You want to play Dr. Boom Mad Genius. Deal with this 7/7 and these 3 boom bots.
Yep, that was kind of my thinking as well, I think.
Oh, and now the bombs start getting drawn.
Perfection.
2 bombs get drawn.
Double perfection.
That is a nightmare for Boar, who was set to play Dr. Boom Mad Genius and be able to take the hit. Now the hit is frightening.
Yes. That is... I mean, that's just worked out absolutely perfectly for Jarla. Completely outside of his control. The bombs stayed in the deck just long enough for him to get the full suite of boom bots, and then boom, 10 damage immediately, perfectly in sync with the turn where he's trying to alpha into the Mad Genius turn. Those 2 bombs exploding supported that push so perfectly. Turn later, BoarControl is free to just do whatever he wants this turn, essentially. A turn earlier, there's less boom bots on the board. I mean, it's just colossally unlucky for Boar.
I mean, if you try to brawl here, you could just lose.
Yes.
Yep. I'm pretty sure you have almost an expectation to lose, but he doesn't have another opportunity. If that Armagadillo got checked when you played Blastmaster move, he was dead.
Okay. That's all 5 boom bots dead. There's a... Oh,
Seven live.
Oh.
He's dead.
Poor old Gustav.
That's just unlucky. That is the highest payoff potential other than the 3rd bomb getting drawn that could have happened for Jarla.
There's not a lot I can add to that apart from support the sentiment that is just unlucky. Sometimes in Hearthstone, in card games, in most things, sometimes you just get got, and that is what happened to Boar that game.
It's a benefit of playing Bomb Warrior.
And I said this right before, right? It's how hard is it to actually have a truly bad matchup with Bomb Warrior when the deck has capabilities of just doing things like that?
Right.
Sometimes it can just flip stuff on its head.
I have no criticisms of either side in that one. That is just Bomb Warrior doing what Bomb Warrior does. Yep. It's a strong deck, and sometimes you just get beat up.
Yep.
So that's going to take us to a break. When we come back, game number 2 of our 5th and final match for Europe is going to be coming up. So stay tuned. America's got some play right after that.
Hearthstone Esports is home to many competitive formats, each with their own unique variants and rules. Today, we're going to break down one of them, the Shield Phase Conquest format. And here's how it works. To start, both players bring 4 decks, each from a unique class. The match starts with a Shield Phase. This is where both players choose one of their own decks to protect, making it ineligible to be banned. Once the Protect phase has ended, both players will then ban one of their opponent's decks, removing it from the pool. Each player then selects which of their remaining decks they would like to play first, before beginning the first game of the series. When the first game of the series is over, the winner's deck is removed from their pool of eligible decks. Both players then select the next deck they would like to play. The loser of the first game can choose to replay with the deck they lost with, or they can choose one of their other 2 available decks. In Best of 3 conquests, the first player to 2 wins is the victor. In Best of 5 series, such as those in the semifinals or finals of major events, the first player that makes it to 3 wins takes the W. It's that easy. Shield Phase Conquest allows players to showcase their skill set across different classes, while still giving them the opportunity to play the deck they're most confident with. Now that you've got the download on Shield Phase Conquest, we wish you well on your deck building adventures.
My name is Sam Braithwaite, and I'm the Senior Global Franchise Lead for Hearthstone Esports. This event was especially cool because it takes place right after the brand new expansion, Rise of Shadows. Historically in Hearthstone Esports, we do our big events like this towards the end of an expansion cycle, but we really wanted to shake things up and really showcase that not only is the world champion the person who can pilot the best decks, but also the person who, when presented with a brand new game, can put together the best decks leading into the World Championship. Cheers to you guys, the sold-out crowd here for the HCT 2019 World Championship.
Welcome back to 2019 HCT World Championship.
We've had a lot of fun games, and we're looking forward to the grand finals. Showdown. Viper versus Hunter Race. Only one can be the champion. Oh, come on!
Match be dead.
Wacko pick of this coming out from Hunter Race.
It's now or never. Archvillain Rafar.
Okay! In a completely solved game, Hunter Race finds a way to maximize his chances. It's been a wonderful journey throughout the past few years of the Hearthstone Championship Tour, where stars were made and dreams came true.
It's Hearthstone Grandmasters for the European region, and we're in our 5th and final match of today. Only 1 day left after this one, but we do have some America's play that's coming up, and that's Admirable, and I'm joined by Sottle. And Sottle, we just came away from a game that was pretty much just one of those games. Good old-fashioned Bomb Warrior and Jarla getting the big payoff for bringing the deck.
Yeah, it's just a beating for BoarControl, just plain and simple through no fault of his own. It just all lined up against him. Everything happened pretty much at the perfect cadence at the perfect time for Jarla, and he comes out of it with a 1-0 victory. BoarControl is now choosing to run back that Control Warrior once again. He's going to have to come up against the might, potentially, of Luna's Pocket Galaxy. The big talking point as this is now, it's Victory Lap, it's Swan Song at 5 mana as it's going to return back to the OG form, 7.
Yeah, I will say, though, that I think that Boar has a pretty good matchup against this. I don't think that he's just out of the game, even in the face of a Luna's Pocket Galaxy early on. I think Plague of Wrath is that strong of a card that it can change the dynamic of a matchup. It is a 3rd effective board wipe spell that you have. You know, one of the ways that Jarla can overpower BoarControl with the Mage deck is by making just colossal boards in back-to-back turns. That's where the offer of both Brawl and Plague of Wrath can have a big benefit. When I was practicing Control Warrior early in this metagame, I had 2 Plague of Wrath in my deck. And I was missing some tools that I wish I would have had. You know, kind of taking a look at BoarControl's list, he's trimmed away 1 Eternium Rover, which I think against Mage is a pretty large benefit to have. You have 1 less card that's ineffective, I think, at best in the matchup, and instead you've just gotten more gas across the board. A Super Collider in here as well, and still got the full package removal across the board. So I'm excited to see what he can do with Jarla's deck in this matchup.
See immediately, though, the punishment that can come from that card that you need to carry in your deck sometimes. Archivist Elysiana. We've been seeing a lot of streamlined Bomb Warriors playing without Elysiana, and now the Control Warrior comes in that does have the Archivist, and she's just going to sit there, just -1 card for many, many turns now throughout this game.
Yeah, its impact is, I would say, the least amount in this matchup.
What I'm saying, the impact is that it's in the deck and Boar has drawn it, and that is not a card that can have an impact on the game.
I was trying to look at the positive side, I mean. Like, the positive side of that card being there is it's slim to none.
Right.
It is mostly a liability.
Yeah, exactly.
Jarla considered the tempo ooze, looking at the Arcane Intellect and Mountain Giant.
Ooh, yeah.
Opts away. Nice draw for Boar. It's important. The Town Criers are super important in Control Warrior, I think, more so than Bomb Warrior, because a thinning of your deck in this deck really matters. Like, you need to find eventually Brawls and Plague of Wrath to be able to wipe away what Jarla's going to be doing.
Okay, select on 3 for Jarla is going to leave him with 9. Does have the Mountain Giant curve available.
Preemptive Mummy.
Do you need to?
I'd like to. I guess you could go up to 5 armor, 7 armor with the Shield Slam Town Crier.
I was definitely considering the armor is more flexible because, again, the breakpoint of Restless Mummy dealing 6 as opposed to Militia Commander dealing 5. He doesn't need any extra damage on this board to kill a Mountain Giant next turn, even without the Shield Slam. He does concede tempo by just passing this turn and then Restless Mummy next turn into the Mountain Giant.
Yeah, I think he's considering the difference between that with also Omega Devastator.
Yeah, this is kind of where I was. If we're tempoing a minion, like, isn't the Omega Devastator just more valuable to have in play? And we just Restless Mummy from hand to kill a Mountain Giant next turn?
I see it as both a yes and no, where I do feel like if the game goes to a slow pace, that Omega Devastator is a powerful tool at the end of the game.
Yes.
And I don't think that he needs to pressure as much as possible in order to make his push efficient. I think that the Mummy just hitting for 3 a turn is pretty good. I'm not sure. Like, I'm interested in this play. I have tended to hang on to Omega Devastators in this matchup, but I know that Boar is a player who wants to fight for board about as aggressively as he can. I don't blame him for that. Mummies are good removal as well.
Yeah, this just made sense to me. I feel like the Mummy didn't need to be on the board in the first place. The problem was if a Giant came down, you were just kind of conceding tempo by then playing a Mummy and trading into it if you didn't choose to go with the Shield Slam line. So you can just solve that by just playing Chillwind Mechie here instead, and then next turn you get to kill a Mountain Giant and to continue to push damage.
There's 2 Mummies in hand, though.
Yeah. Good cards.
This is a lot better against Frostbolt, I think. It commits Jarla to wanting to invest mana on turn 5 as well.
Also, yes.
And I think that seeing that Frostbolt and Hero Power, BoarControl can, rest pretty safely assured that there is not a way to, do anything huge with Jarla's hand right now. It's going to be a fairly honest fight for a while.
Further upside to the Omega Devastator line over the Restless Mummy is in a world where the Mountain Giant doesn't come down and BoarControl just can completely have initiative. Ziliax comes down on top of the mech and pushes even more damage.
Yeah, I can see that just happening here.
Yeah.
Protect it from the Hero Power. Protect it from Blizzard. He's not going to bite. Get a look at the Elemento Evocation addition to many of the Reno Mage decks. It opens up a lot of cool plays that you can make with Zephyrus at certain points in the game, as well as it cheapens Tiamat as well. People forget he's an Elemental.
Yeah, count me chief amongst it on that list. The first time it happened to me, it was not something that I'd considered. The Elemental tag on Tiamat, first time I played against a Reno Mage and that combination happened, I was like, oh, wow, okay, that's definitely something that I need to keep in mind for the future.
Beautiful Hero Power, I agree. Casual Mountain Giant. Yeah, BoarControl, this is a nice timing for Jarla as well. It's into a turn where our Megadilla wants to come down often for BoarControl.
Right.
And so this is always a strength I have found in Jarla, is his ability to find not only just how do I make my threats effective, but how do I time them so that they're annoying for my opponent as well.
Also, I want to give a special shout out to Jarla's flex with his camera positioning. I do want to do this at least once per season. He could have just had a completely clean backdrop, but no, backdrop off to one side, just so there is a crucial piece of hardware just being revealed on the right-hand side.
I think that's purely coincidental.
Okay, yeah. Sure.
Who would want to show off their big trophy from their big win?
I must choose.
No tomb can hold me.
Yeah, BoarControl going to preserve the shield slams here as well, realizing that the tempo of those could be very important next turn with the Armageddillo, it looks like. Ah, this is smart too, actually. So in the case that Siamat were to come down, Boar has the trade-in off the Divine Shield, and then the Shield Slam with the Armageddillo behind that. That's really smart.
Yeah, if it comes down Divine Shield, Wind Fury, he's able to deal with it.
Wow, that's so smart. I would have snap armored up there.
Boar? Deep in thought, talking to himself a little bit. Theorizing that he was kind of expecting this. He does have a very, very clean answer back at it. The problem is that the Armageddillo isn't doing the huge amount of work he would want it to be doing when he does have that double 2 Morden in his deck. Ziliak's still there, though.
Curious if that ever changes his play.
Yeah,
it's going to.
Does. Goes Restless Mummy instead.
No tomb
Same
can
difference
hold
with
me.
what you were talking about before, though. That source of damage on the board to beat the Divine Shield was essential for making this play happen.
Yep. And you see the difference between hanging on to the Restless Mummies versus investing them into tempo. They act as removal spells as well.
Yep. And they always act as removal spells, which is another thing in that equation. You were saying Omega Devastator is a really valuable card in the matchup. It wouldn't have been able to kill any of those threats that he's killed with Restless Mummies.
True story. It's a very strong understanding of the matchup.
I wonder.
That honestly has probably been one of the biggest troubles I've been facing.
Killing stuff?
Like, on these turns specifically. Like,
Yeah.
The hardest turns for Warrior are turns 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah.
It's when you're doing, without the big boys, you're doing the least.
Big wince from Boar.
Yeah, that was kind of a nightmare turn. Preserving the shield slams, even though the mana efficiency of that.
Yeah.
Time runs out on me. What to do?
Well, I think you can surmise by now, Boar, that he doesn't have any nuts options. Or he has 3 nuts options.
Just take. Karen. You're like, oh, come on.
I mean, this is Jarla that we're dealing with. It bears repeating if you haven't figured it out by now. If you didn't watch last season, if you haven't got the idea right just by watching the opening stages of these last 2 games, Jarla is very slow, very considered in his actions. You will see a lot of rope, and you will see that turn timer feature coming into play for Jarla on multiple occasions.
What now?
BoarControl really did not want our Armageddillo to be weak.
Nope.
And any way you slice this, I think it's weak. I don't think he's interested in giving up 2 shield slams. I really don't. I think what he's going to have his eye on is taking a risk and looking to land our Armageddillo, hopefully get the trade off of these safeguards and find himself a Warpath turn.
What now?
Yeah. He might, if he uses shield slams here, he's going to find himself in a whole world of trouble coming up soon. And I think, Boar can recognize that because he doesn't have Plague of Wrath, he doesn't have Brawl, he has no way to remove big threats right now once these shield slams go down. Remember that Omega Devastator, as much as I think we've come to the conclusion that we like the play of using it for tempo earlier on, that's down as well, meaning that there are few draws in the deck to answer big threats after these shield slams are expended.
Yeah, and I think Boar isn't necessarily thinking about this in terms of, I don't know what to do. He's thinking about it in terms of, how does this affect my future, and what happens if this goes awry?
Yeah.
Then how do I handle this? Like, I think he figured out this turn immediately, and he's thinking about the possibilities on the following, and how is he going to deal with those? These shield slams need to be timed precisely, I think, given his hand context.
Turn for Jarla is probably one of the most awkward of the game so far, though.
I wonder.
Wants to try and push damage. Can't really do that. No clean way to deal with the 4-7 without just trading through it. And then even if he trades through it, what spells does he get off the Tortolan here, which is his only real on-curve natural play? They give him a huge benefit this turn.
I wonder.
If we've seen how long Jarla is going to take on turns that look fairly straightforward, I'm pretty sure he's going to be deep in the tank on this one.
Time runs out on me.
There's the rope. Something's got to be done.
Yeah, I mean, the spells in deck right now, Flame Strike, Luna's Pocket Galaxy, and Conjurer's Calling, I believe, are the only remaining spells in the deck.
Really?
I'm looking at BoarControl's list, I'm sorry. So that's going to add in Puzzle and Yogg-Saron.
And a Flame Strike.
That was the first one I said, right?
No.
What was the first one I said?
I don't remember. It wasn't Flame Strike.
Okay, so I believe your other spells left are Puzzle Box, Flame Strike, Luna's Pocket Galaxy. Ah, he's got Polymorph in here as well.
Yeah.
And then a Conjurer's Calling. So in that case, 5 different options available for the Tortolan Pilgrim.
Yeah. And a lot of those were kind of bad in this scenario.
Yeah, so Boar is, you know, it hurts to take this damage from the Kartut Defender on the following turn, but I gotta believe, oh, you know what? You could end up on a Dynamatic Warpath turn here. That prevents you taking damage. Wonder if that's something he's prioritizing right now.
Again, it's two resources to, I guess, 2 resources to perfectly solve a situation that you could solve almost as well with one. Does that like make sense in terms of explanation?
Yeah, you do have interest in Warpath specifically for Plague of Wrath.
Yes, for sure. He is going for it.
Yeah, I like going for it. You know, Plague of Wrath gets activated by Dr. Boom Mad Genius. Quite often,
yeah,
that's one of the reasons I like the card so much. It's
Sure.
playing to the strength of one of your paramount cards.
Right.
You know, suddenly those kaboom turns don't look so dead anymore when you got Plague of Wrath in hand.
I think one of the reasons why he was so eager to keep damage off the board here as well is that he needs to preserve this armor total. It's all well and good saying, save these shield slams, they're the last things that you have to deal with an Alexstrasza or a Kalikos or whatever else hits the board. But then, if you don't use other removal to make sure that you're not taking damage, Jarla's just going to smack you in the face, and then that armor's going to be gone. And then Alexstrasza comes down this turn, you don't have 8 armor to shield slam it anymore. So protecting his health total here, or his armor total at least, is paramount for BoarControl in terms of making sure that these shield slams can be the real trump cards that he's looking for.
I wonder.
It's got to be Alex.
It's an early Alex. That opens up the Ziliax to be prime effectiveness now. BoarControl certainly attaching Ziliax Shield Slam here.
Yes.
There is no other option.
But, I mean, speaking of no other option, like, what else could Jarla have done that turn? It's just had to be an Alexstrasza turn, right?
I don't know. I think the Pilgrim's looking pretty good.
What does it do?
What now?
Cast you. Well, it's going to cast you a Puzzle Box, a Flame Strike, a Pocket Galaxy, the Polymorph Sucks, or a Conjurer's Calling. Any of those cards it casts, I think, have benefit to them right now. Any of them. The Puzzle Box is the weakest one by far. So, like, one of your worst options you're going to find is, like, Polymorph, Flame Strike, Puzzle Box. Like, that's probably your weakest outcome from the Pilgrim right now.
Or Conjurer's Calling your opponent's minion.
I don't even think it's that bad right now, honestly.
What?
He's got Blizzard and Frostnova in hand. Like, when do you use these cards?
Okay, but it is actively bad. Just literally a bad thing.
I don't necessarily agree with that, because you get a second half of Conjurer's Calling in your hand, and you just have a Blizzard and a Frostnova. Like, these, where are you going to use these?
All right.
Or even finds an alternative.
Yeah, meanwhile, the Ziliax doesn't even end up coming into play as expected.
I'm quite surprised by that. Brawl seemed to me like a valuable tool in the face of your opponent, you know, having another power creation turn, whether that's discovered or cast from a Pilgrim. Like, Ziliax Shield Slam looked really good to me. You go up 21, you put your opponent on a 0-5, you have a 6-6 Taunt Divine Shield Lifesteal in play.
Ooh.
Now that's an option. Are you interested in drawing cards or not?
Kind of.
How many cards?
That's a better question. Perhaps not that many. The problem is, like, to beat Control Warrior, you can't have a dead turn. Like, that is death for you. If you take a turn off and you just don't keep up pressure, that's when Control Warrior starts to take over. So currently, Jarla's hand is very light on threats. He only has like 1 or 2 turns more stuff to do. If he doesn't pick up like more big minions after that, or more stuff to do at least, he might find himself just slipping by the wayside. Antonidas in particular would be the one thing I'm really looking for with this hand. Can't fault taking the big one though. 4-7 over 4-4.
I like the big one.
Yeah, relevant against Warpath, of course. Various other things as well.
Super Collider.
Super Collider.
This is scary.
It's the last turn for Boar. That's the one that I have the big question mark about.
I must choose.
I mean, it sounds like you have questions over the Alexstrasza coming down in the first place, and then the play that follows it.
No, I don't mind the Alexstrasza.
Okay.
I mean, like, I'm happy with any threat Jarla develops on that turn.
Okay.
Like, I don't think that the Pilgrim is off the menu on that previous one. And for me, I think for Boar, I mean, the Shield Slam Ziliax looked so good to me. You would have had a brawl this turn. You know, perhaps he's fearing Polymorph on the other side because Jarla's had this left side of cards in hand the whole game. You know, Polymorph is just like rearing and ready to go, but that would occupy a lot of Jarla's mana in that regard. You're going to get Polymorphed at some point. Like, looking for bigger impact from Ziliax, I understand. Looking for bigger impact from Brawl, though,
What to do?
that's something I'm very interested in. And now that Jarla has tempo, I think he's pretty set to make some good work of this.
Yeah, this is the kind of turn I was talking about, though, where he does need to do something else big in order to keep up damage. And I think he's kind of got the signal that mass removal isn't really there yet. Doesn't risk the puzzle box, just takes the discount. With Antonidas still in the deck, that can end up being huge as well. Just that single solitary minion being in the deck costing 1. Even if it was just that, it might be enough in this position. Meg plus Ziliax available again. Shield Slam starting to approach the territory where if it doesn't get used soon, it's not going to get up to any kind of significant armor total to be able to take something off the board.
I wonder.
Or just fearing the counterplay.
Counterplay is available now.
Ooze has been there the whole game.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see anything efficient here. I do not. I'm lost.
It's ugly. Very, very ugly turn. Especially considering, even as inefficient as his options are for removal, they also all get punished on the opposing side as well. Like, if he made a big Ziliax, there's Polymorph to be able to take care of it. If he goes with the Super Collider line, there's Ooze to take care of it. He ends up doing both. Guess what? There's answers for both of them.
Did you see Jarla's face there?
I did not.
His eyebrows perked up. Ooh, stuff to do.
Does Jarla just want to try and capitalize here? I think he's got a pretty clear signal that Boar is kind of suffering for removal options right now.
You know, I want to go back to the game where we were talking about the respect you pay to your opponent and not forcing overdraw in that Paladin mirror match.
Yes, sure.
That could very much be a real influence in this game, where BoarControl being willing to use a brawl so early on signals to Jarla
that there's a second one.
that there's more removal in hand. That the fact that he used a Warpath in the way that he did. You know, you're thinking about the other board wipe tools that are going to be available. So perhaps Boar's reading into that to some degree and saying, you know what, there's a chance he doesn't overdevelop in this spot and I get time to pick these away. That's something I overlooked initially, and now I'm thinking might have been an active thought in his head.
Not sure if that's the case. I feel like Jarla has been, let's say, overcommitting since the time he saw that first brawl. I think he understands that the position he's in, he's got to make these kind of plays where he pushes. I was kind of interested in the polymorph on the previous turn, not only to not heal your opponent, but also to prevent this situation where if you polymorphed the Ziliax, you'd be forcing much more face damage. Shield Slam would be kind of out of the equation. If you've got to read that there's no mass removal, Shield Slam is kind of one of the last things that you really have to take out.
That is a lot of gas.
And AI was the card chosen off the Volpira? Is that
That's
correct?
right.
Yep, okay.
I wonder.
With the number of cards dwindling on BoarControl's side, I think Jarla's smelling blood.
What does smelling blood entail here?
Continue being as aggressive as you can. Because that's what his last turn basically was. What's the most stuff I can really do?
Actually, the Blizzard being buffed here does actually make it pretty attractive in terms of how much damage you're able to push through these taunts. Just the ooze, the 2-3 and a pink can now chew through these and allow 9 more to go downtown.
Jam that Ziliax in there as well.
You could.
Get 3 more in.
You could. Yeah, and I think that's the final nail in the coffin. I think Jarla is absolutely recognizing that he has to push advantage, that the mass removals are in the deck somewhere, and he needs to get as much advantage as he can while that's still the case.
Get that damage, then use the Arcane Intellect to find Antonidas afterwards. And that's no help.
Nope, nothing. How much damage is this on board? 6, 11, 15, 19 in play.
Let's trim away 0 of it.
Nothing. If Abomination comes down, Boar is dead. That 2 armor crucial. Oh, it's Antonidas, I believe. There it is.
If Antonidas comes down, Boar is dead.
Boar is dead. 1 mana Antonidas means that the Fireball already cheap enough to come down alongside that and end the game. Boar, I think, has right to feel aggrieved in this series that he's kicking off Hearthstone Grandmasters Season 2 with. I think it was a similar story in Season 1, where he got off to a pretty slow start and was doing so while bringing decks that were probably favored against like 70% of the field, but he was just hitting the 30% of that with the matches that he was playing against and was therefore suffering a bad record early on. It's a very different story, but I think it's fair to say that he got the bad rub of the green in that series.
He definitely did. I just feel like he never really had anything with the ball rolling. Like, the first game was just absolutely out of his control. I think he had a solid plan that was set in motion. I think he had a spot where he could have possibly taken advantage of the Blastmaster Boom turn by securing that Dr. Boom down and then taking the hit and finding a way to fight back. But it was just the bombs back-to-back showing up in that game that took away that option and just squelched him from game number 1. And then in game number 2, we're seeing kind of the side of Control Warrior where it does not get the gas rolling. He had all responsive tools almost the entirety of the game, and Jarla was not giving him time to respond adequately. He's instead just slowly building up the advantage until he can figure out what the remaining tools for BoarControl's hand are and then take advantage of it from there.
Yeah, but of course we don't want to take anything away from Jarla. He is a very, very solid player. Had a 50% record, 7-7, I believe, in Season 1, looking to do even better than that this time around and push for those playoff spots. He again showed why he is one of the most exemplary players, and we can actually find out a little bit more about how that series went for Jarla, because we do have him standing by for a winner's interview. Jarla, how are you doing? Microphone muted, sir.
Oh, feels good.
There it goes.
What was that you said?
Starting season with 0-1 is always good, so it feels good for me.
Well, good. I'm glad that feels good because I wanted to ask you about your thoughts on Grandmasters overall and the changes that took place. What are your thoughts on all the changes that we've had leading into Season 2?
So we changed format. I always liked playing multiple classes format, so I think I'm happy about that. But I still would prefer best of 5, but it's better than nothing.
So I want to talk to you about the warrior deck that you played very well in the first game. A few little fortunate bomb rolls, but what made you go with bomb warrior specifically? Because I think we know you as kind of a extremely good control player, but you chose to go with like the more aggressive form of warrior. Why was that?
Yeah, I think the bomb warrior is better in mirror, and it should be better against like Reno Mage, even though it's still probably unfavored. But I think it's better than control mage against Reno Mage. It's slightly worse against Priest, but I think overall it was like solid pick. I built it in like very aggressive way. I wasn't playing like Elysiana and the Armageddon package, so yeah.
What, in your opinion, makes it superior by comparison?
Sorry?
What, in your opinion, makes it superior to the control warrior option in the matches that you said it was you felt it was better in?
I mean, you can just go aggressive, like play your cards on curve, like coin Alec into Clockwork Goblin, kill your opponent. But with Control Warrior, you always have to like hold on, and sometimes it goes to fatigue, and the game takes longer. You have to outgrind your opponent a bit, but with Bonfire, you can just kill them.
So you like most players coming into this week, you have Luna's Pocket Galaxy in your lineup, you have Dr. Boom Mad Genius in your lineup, you have Extra Arms in your lineup. So going into next week, when the nerfs come down, like how much harder does that make deck building going into week 2 of Grandmasters?
I'm not sure right now, but I will have to figure it out. But I think Boom still will be okay. Galaxy probably not that great, and not sure about Extra Arms. But yeah, we will have to deal with the nerfs and find maybe new decks or something. We'll see.
Well, all right, Jarla, thank you very much for your time. It's always a pleasure to watch you play, and we're getting some multi-class format here, and it's always a pleasure to see you do that. Congratulations, and looking forward to seeing you play.
Thank you. See ya, guys.
I think he did get to strut his stuff in that mage game right there, where I don't think that he had a spectacular start by any means. And to me, one of the biggest telling things about Jarla was, again, the timing of that Mountain Giant, waiting for it to be Boar's turn 6 so that he could disrupt a potential Armageddon coming down, is such an important tool to players who want to manipulate the momentum of the game. And Jarla, almost every time I see him play, finds a unique way to make that happen.
Yeah, he's a very impressive player. I think he's a player that we both had a lot of good things to say about last season, and I think, you know, a 7-7 record for Jarla, he perhaps deserved just even a little bit better than that. So he'll be looking for something better than a mid-table finish, and he's off to the perfect start to do that. I find this interesting. I didn't know this was a thing. It's the second European in Jarla who said I started off 0-1 when they won the game, whereas conventionally, like in English, we would say 1-0 if we'd go wins, losses, whereas the Europeans have tended to go loss, wins. Doesn't matter. Not important. I just found it interesting.
I wonder why that is.
Yeah.
I figured you, of all people, would know that.
No, I mean, okay, I'm supposed to be the European here, but we are a very separate entity in terms of English speaking compared to people who speak English as a second language.
Yeah, I was just talking about, you know, all the useless facts that you typically know.
Oh, I mean, yeah, sure. Well, I'll find this one out, and then I'll know it, and then I can tell you.
All right. Well, we'll kick off tomorrow's show. That'll be the big thing you all have to look forward to.
If there was ever a hook to bring them back tomorrow, there it is.
Sottle's going to know exactly why they say the loss first and then the wins instead of the wins and then the losses. So that was our 5th match in the books here for us in Europe. But we're not done with Hearthstone yet. We're going to be handing the show over to TJ and Dan, who are going to be bringing you the Americas action. And then tomorrow, it's Super Sunday for the European region. We got 6 matches in Europe that's going to be coming up. So stay tuned if you're looking around for some Americas. For myself and for Sottle and for production, though, that's it for Europe. We'll see you tomorrow.